أتاني مرة نزق ليسألني بما دنت فقلت له أنا رجل أحب الله يا أنت أتسأل كيف منهاجي أما بالحق آمنت عباد الله إخواني فكن منهم إذا شئت وكن معنا على حذر من التفريق إن صنت.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونعوذ بك من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. We bear witness there's no one worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He chose me and you to be Muslims, and at the same time we also thank Muhammad SAW for his countless efforts that he did for this religion. And also we thank the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala ajma'een. And above all, brothers, I recited the ayah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullaha haqqa tuqatih wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. That all you who believe, then be mindful, be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the truth. And do not die except for any other faith other than being a Muslim. Because if you died in any other faith, then there is no refuge for that person. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may have other plans, but knowing the guideline is the only way to Jannah is to be a Muslim. So inshallah we ask Allah to keep us Muslims forever. Also today I want to speak about this month of Rajab, and then I'm going to speak about, we said there was a group of other jinns who came, and then we'll speak about Isra wal Mairaaj. Isra wal Mairaaj is a very long topic. I might probably take today even to the next week and even the week after that as well. And the reason for that, you'd be amazed that if you were to read the books of Hadith, all the different books of Hadith, as normal Muslims we think there's only 10, there are actually more than 10 books of Hadith. If you actually went and you looked at them and you compiled all the Hadith together in the Meccan life of Rasulullah, all hadith of Meccan life as compared to the Isra wal Mairaaj are only like minuscule, like they're only very little as compared to the hadith that were gathered for Isra wal Mairaaj. This story in itself is a very, very extensive story, very vast story, and I will speak about this. And if it's a great miracle to Muhammad SAW, it's a miracle of body and soul. As Muslims we should all believe that. And if we have any other belief, it's not going to help us. We had a great, I shouldn't use the word great. If someone does not recognize the greatness of Allah, he can never be great. If you are from the region of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, you probably know a scholar known as Sir Sayyid Ahmed Khan. He had a university which is a famous university in India, Aligarh University. So he was a scholar, he was a modern day scholar. He denied Isra wal Mairaaj to be physical. He said it was a dream that came to Prophet Muhammad. It was only a journey of soul and it was a dream. He denied that. And people who deny the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they're not far off being away from Islam. So he was one of those people. He was an Orientalist. He was a very modern day scholar. He had a very modern day views about different things. Also, I want to actually mention one of the things today, I want to start with the ayah of Surah Tawbah, and we've spoken about this ayah many times when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna iddata shuhuru inda Allahi itna ashara. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying the number of months according to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are 12. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Fi kitabillahi yawma khalaqa samawati wal ardi minha. That in the book of Allah, and these are the 12 months that were created as He created the heavens and the earth. So these are all created months. Then Allah says, Arba'atun hurum. 4 of them are hurum. And we don't find these 4 in the books of in the Quran, but we know those 4 months. One is Rajab, and the other 3 are right next to each other. So the first one is Dhul Qa'dah, and then Dhul Hijjah, and then Muharram. So these are the sacred months. But apart from that, the one which is in the middle is Rajab. So if you've been listening to my series, if you know, we are going to speak about why this was a very important month to the kuffar, and what was the reason while they would, if you remember back in the days, we spoke about Ahlul Nasi. Ahlul Nasi was a group which actually tried to change the forms, the months of the religion. And what they would do, they would suit for themselves, and they would change the dates. And they would say, oh, you know what, this is not the sacred month. Why? Because they were fighting. And we learn from the hadith, from Rasulullah sallallahu, from the Quran as well. He says, ذَلِكَ دِينُ الْقَيِّمِ. And this is the religion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has destined for you. This is what stands in the religion. فَلَا تَذْلِمُوا فِيهِنَّ أَنفُسَكُمْ. And do not fight against each other, or do not wrong yourselves in these months. Do not wrong. And also Allah says, وَقَاتِلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ كَافَّةً كَمَا يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ كَافَّةً. And do not fight the disbelievers collectively as they fight you in these months. In these months we cannot go on a war. We cannot go on aggressive war. If Muslims are attacked, then you can defend yourself. But you cannot go on aggressive war in these months. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's why they call the sacred months. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَعَلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Then Allah knows Allah is with the righteous. And if you know that. So these are the sacred months. So don't get me wrong. You'll get a lot of posts when the Rajab starts, that this is going to happen in Rajab, this is going to happen. A lot of things come around. One of the things my respected friend, if he does listen to me, from the Imam Center in Allen Grove, the Imam over there, his name is Nami Farhat. And he's the Imam of the, if you don't know what in Allen Grove is, a Shia mosque. And he actually sent a post to me the other day proving the authenticity of Salatul Raghaib. Salatul Raghaib is practiced by some of us, which should not be practiced. In the first Friday of Rajab, what you do, you have a spiritual gathering, and you pray 12 units of salah, which is 2, 2, 2, 2. That's how people pray. And what you do, you make special du'as. And those du'as, and then you've got this hadith which is floating around. And as Sunnis, we float these hadith. The 5 du'as will never be, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will actually never discount these 5 du'as. What are these 5 du'as? The first day of Rajab, the 15th day of Sha'ban, and there was another 2, which is the 27th night of Ramadan, and the other 2 are the days of Eid. Now let's qualify that. And the first one, Rajab, has no standing in the hadith. This dua is like any other dua that you make. Nis Sha'ban, another made up day, the 15th of Sha'ban, which is called Laylatul Bara, another made up day. And often people, when Surah Dukhan, they quote that ayah, Laylatul Mubarak is the night when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says Laylatul Mubarakah. It's actually not that night. Allah is speaking about the 27th night of Ramadan. Actually not the 27th night of Ramadan, it's the Laylatul Qadr. In simple words, I mean it could be any night. It's just a very subcontinent and a Muslim thing that we try to finish the Quran on the 27th night, and we all come together, we make dua, and our du'as will be accepted. Inshallah, Allah accepts the du'as. And then comes the other 2 days. The nights preceding, before the day of Eid. So these are the 2 nights. One is, they called, which is the night of Eid al-Fitr and the night of Eid al-Adha. This hadith is a da'if hadith. And making these rituals part of our religion, there is no standing for it. What we know from the month of Rajab is the month of Mudar. Rajab in Arabs was known as the month of Mudar. and Mudar was their tribe. If you know that Muhammad SAW is, we spoke about the lineage of Rasulullah earlier on, which is from the Kilab and going up to the Mudar and then going up to the Ka'b, and they're the tribes of Rasulullah. So what they would do, and Yusuf's here, you probably would know the earlier lectures, we spoke about Ahlul Nasi. Ahlul Nasi, as I said earlier on, they were the ones who would change the days around. If they wanted to fight someone, they would say Muharram hasn't started. But with Rajab, they could not do that, because 3 months were right next to each other, so they could just play with those months. But Rajab was never played. So Rajab was a very sacred month for them. And Rajab was, a month they would take very seriously, and they would actually not go on a fight in this month whatsoever. So the other thing which was famous for Rajab was Atir. Atir was a sacrifice they would do. And this sacrifice, they would sacrifice a special animal in the month of Rajab. And it still happens back in our countries. We have special sacrifices that happen. They slaughter a cow or something in the name of Allah and saying, you know what, this is for the sake of Allah. And this is how was done in the time of Rasulullah. Rasulullah made this practice mansukh. It was actually abrogated. And this practice was never done after that. And like I said, Salatul Raghaib is also a very common practice in our religion. Some of you already have prayed that Salah, which was Friday, was the first Friday of Rajab. And people, I think you're laughing, did you pray it? You didn't, okay. So some of you already prayed that Salah, which is the 12 units that people pray, and you make a special dua and will become accepted. See, this is wrong forms of Islam. Bid'ah, in one of the amazing hadith, if you are very familiar with the hadith Arba'een, Imam Nawawi actually brings a hadith which is number 5. He says, "Man ahdatha fi amrina hadha fahuwa rad." This is a hadith which is in Arba'een. This is part of our religion. Whoever invents an affair in this religion is rejected. So remember, how do we clarify bid'ah? Very simple. When someone plays with the time, when someone plays with the specifics, when someone plays with the place, any of these things are changed, it's likely that thing which is brought in is a bid'ah. There's actually 6 things, but very simply just bringing the idea, the number. For example, you can't say, I'm feeling very happy today, so we're going to pray 5 rakahs of Asr. I'm feeling happy, I want to worship Allah more, and I want to give my gratitude with an extra rakah. This is wrong. It's not going to happen. You can't say, you know, my son just made the Kaaba for the school project, so we're going to make tawaf over here, and after that we're going to go for sa'i, and we'll cut our hair and we've done the Hajj. You can't do that, because it's only particularly for a place and we do it that way. So exactly with Salatul Raghaib, it's actually never mentioned in any authentic hadith. This was a practice which was introduced by the Fatimids. If you guys know your history really well, Fatimids were the Shi'as. And it was a Shia government, Khilafah, which was started. And they're the first ones who actually started the birthday of Rasulullah SAW. And that was the 400 years after the death of Rasulullah. So you can imagine, they came up with a lot of things. You know, as Muslims, we love occasions. Don't get me wrong, we love these occasions. I mean, you've got this Eid festival. Kids are looking forward for that. Christmas, we love. And unfortunately, the white people have more festivals. Now they've got Christmas, they've got Easter, a lot of things are coming. They've got Easter show, all these things, you know, they come. They've got Valentine's Day, they've got the, Halloween, yeah, that's right. They've got the Shaitan's Day as well. And so they've got a range of different things, and it keeps the kids entertained. You know, it's all, and they've got birthdays as well. And subhanAllah, I've had a very busy day today, and if I do fall asleep, then I'm allowing you to wake me up. One of our students actually got married today, Hamza. So I was officiating his marriage in the morning, and then my son had a birthday party in time zone. And imagine being Imam in time zone celebrating birthday. I mean, that in itself is very controversial. But you know, you have to be on the controversial end with your people. So I was there, and they were enjoying, and they asked me for a cake when they were cutting the cake as well. And I said, you know what, okay, I'll have the cake. It's okay, I'll have the cake. But see, this is what happens. We like these things. And that's why we've got a big thing in, since I've come to AIA, this school, since I've actually, not me, since I've brought my son in AIA. When my son used to go to AICS, he was never invited for birthday. I know my son actually felt for that moment in his life that no one invited him. But since we've come to AIA, he's only been here for 1 year. 7 birthdays I've attended. So this was the 7th one, if he doesn't know. And so really it's a lot of birthdays, and I'm sure he's going to ask me next month, am I celebrating his birthday as well? So this birthday thing is, I've got nothing against it, but I've got this spending of money that you spend and you invite. You can actually, if the amount of money this family did today, they could have fed 1 town in Africa, I tell you. Going to time zone, celebrating a birthday over there and giving every kid a lanyard with a card in it to play games, that's a lot of money. I mean, I don't know how much they spend, but I'm pretty sure if they went to Africa, they would have fed the whole town for 3 meals. So, and if you are wanting to celebrate your birthday, you know what? Spend that money on poor people. Feed the poor. They will make dua for your son that he lives a long life. People who come to, for birthdays, and a lot of things go wrong. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen those memes when people are opening those presents and they start crying. If someone brings a pencil to your birthday, you're not going to be very happy with that. So there's another drama that comes with those things as well. So, but anyways, so Rajab is like, the Muslims are looking for these festivals. We're looking for these festivals. We want to have these days in our lives. If we don't have these days, we do get paranoid, because the others have a lot of days. Don't get me wrong. That's why, and then you've got another bid'ah of Rajab, it's the Umrah of Rajab. And actually, Imam Khattabi says, whoever makes the intention of going to Umrah in the month of Rajab, saying that Rasulullah did it, that in itself is a bid'ah. Because you actually brought an ibadah into going to Umrah. He said it's not a problem. You can go to Umrah whenever you like. But thinking you go to Umrah because Muhammad SAW went in this month, then that's wrong. So there is a lot of things you'll see about the sacredness of, yes, it is a sacred month, don't get me wrong. I told you how it's sacred, that we said, Arba'ata Hurum. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says there are 4 months which are sacred, and Rajab is one of them. And also one of the sacred du'as, why Rajab is also very important, because Rajab is a time, like the ulama would say, Rajab is, the du'a that you're making, and you're purifying your heart, and you go to like a boot camp, and Rajab is the boot camp, so you're getting ready for Ramadan. And the more hard you work in this month, and after that Sha'ban, you get into practice of doing the good acts, and when you come to Ramadan, you're already prepared for the greatness. And I tell everyone, if you don't read Quran in your lives, if you only pick up Quran in Ramadan, this is a good time to pick up the Quran now. Because you'll get your bones and your tongue moving, and you'll start getting, well known, and also practicing the words of Allah. By the time you come to Ramadan, you'll be a flowy one. People are struggling. We have this culture especially in my culture, where you say you have to finish a Quran. It becomes a burden. Some kids are growing up, although they are dealing with this salah that they have to 5 times a day, and the lucky number in the Pakistani community, if you pray Isra, it has the lucky number 17. So the kids are already 17, they already freak out. Some of the kids faint when you tell them there's 17 rakat in Isra. That's a burden in itself. And we always say, bring the kids to Islam slowly. Give them the fara'id first. Yes, you want to make them, really great kids, but, give them slowly. Other things will come slowly. So a lot of times we have this practice. I remember when we were growing up, when we didn't finish Quran, our mother was always checking on us. How many, ajzat have you finished? So it was a ritual. You have to finish Quran in Ramadan. If you didn't finish it, because the Prophet finished it, Jibreel came to listen to it, you have to finish it as well. I'll give you one thing. If you even didn't finish Quran in Ramadan, if you only read 1 surah of Quran and you made your life that surah Your life became the part of that surah. You've done better than the one who was just going through the pages and he didn't understand anything what he read. So make this Ramadan a time where you want to be, and you start from here. There's a famous dua, Allahumma barik lana Rajab wa Sha'ban wa ballighna Ramadan. And this is the ulama used to do that. They would say, oh Allah, bless us these 2 months and allow us, ballighna, allow us to get to Ramadan. And remember this, Ramadan only comes to the people who are lucky. Many people that we know were not here, are not here, who were here last year. They will never get to see this month of Ramadan. So the more Ramadans you're getting in your life, you're more closer you're getting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Very quickly, I'll tell you a story just on that note, that Talha ibn Ubaidullah actually saw a dream. It's a very famous story. It's a Sahih story from the Hadith. He saw a dream. He saw 2 people, himself standing on the gates of Jannah. The angel came and he asked the first one to enter, and after a little while he came again. He asked the second one to enter, and then he came and said to Talha that, Irja ya Talha, go away, it's not your turn to come into Jannah. So basically he got up and he went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, I've seen a strange dream. I've actually never seen a dream like that. And if you guys don't know who Talha is, he's an elite Sahaba. He's Asharatu Mubashirun. And so he said, I saw this dream, a man who died last year, and he was invited to come into Jannah first. And the man who died Shaheed a year before him, he was invited afterwards. He died in the path of Rasulullah, fighting in the path of Allah, which was he died as a Shaheed. But I did not get it there. He was a Shaheed, he got in later, and then Rasulullah smiled. He said, don't you think Talha, the one who died 1 year after, who did not participate in the jihad, but he had 1 more year, don't you think he got 1 more Ramadan? And that 1 more Ramadan allowed him to enter Jannah first. And the one who died as a Shaheed, he did not get that month of Ramadan. And that's why, and he said, for you, you are alive, that's why the angel told you to go away. Because it's not your turn to enter Jannah. So this month of Ramadan, if you've got many goals that you've made, if you haven't achieved them, I tell you, now is a good time to make your goals, write your goals down and do something for the sake of Allah. So these were some of the bid'ahs. So atira was the sacrifice that they used to do in the Jahiliyyah. So the Arabs would gather and they would sacrifice any sheep or anything for the idols. And they would drip the blood on the idols, and that was a sacrifice they would do. Anything they would do, they would rub the blood on the idol. So that was how. So fasting of Rajab, again, there's no special fasting of Rajab. You'll see on the 27th night, people fast, they will gather, they say it's Isra wal Mairaaj. Now from the academic point of view, Isra wal Mairaaj actually did not really happen in the month of Rajab. There is a vast difference of opinion. There are 5 months that the scholars give. Even Imam Nawawi is not in favor of Rajab being the month when Isra wal Mairaaj happened. Some say it's Shawwal, some say it's Ramadan, some say it's Sha'ban, some say it's Rajab, some say it's Jamadi al-Ukhra or Jamadi al-Akhir. So these are the 5 months, they're right next to each other. And see, you need to understand, Islam was not here to preserve the dates and the occasions. Islam was here to preserve the message. That's what we need to understand. Often, and you know what's the beauty about this? If you go and ask your father, even your father, when he was born, he would probably not know. Have you guys seen every elder people has the same date of birth, the 1st of the 1st and 19 whatsoever? Guys, have you ever seen in the passports, people come from, these Africa and other places, they all have this date of birth, 1st of the 1st. Or else if the parents were really smart, they randomly make up a date. Now I asked my dad, are you born on the 2nd or the 12th? He said no. 1st of the 1st? Is that randomly made as well? There you go. No, it could not be made up because he's born in UK, so it's very hard to make it up. So this is a very random date of birth of a grandfather. If he's born on the 1st of the 1st, that's a alarm bells, because he's definitely not born on that day. And And this is how Islam was. We did not preserve the dates. Dates are not important. What is really important is the message, the story, what happened on that day. How can we fix ourselves? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came to preserve the deen, not to preserve these dates. This was a practice of the pagans. The pagans had these days, they venerated the days. It's all about, if you look at the pagans today, you have all these dates. In the calendar, you get confused. You know, sometimes if you forget any days, God forbid, then your wife comes on you very hard as well. If you forget the anniversary day, or her birthday, or any of these days, it becomes troublesome for a sane person. So you got so many days. You got the Mother's Day, you got the Father's Day, or probably there might be a Grandfather's Day soon as well, a Grandmother's Day. I don't know which one they will be, the mother's, the maternal grandmother or the paternal grandmother. That's going to be another battle. But you know, all these days, they're not really important for us to worry about. So these are some of the things about the month of Rajab. If you want to fast, then we have authentic reports from Rasulullah. Fast on the Monday, fast on the Thursday. If you want to fast, Ayyamul Bid. Ayyamul Bid are the white days, 13, 14 and the 15th. Not the 13, 14, 15 of the Gregorian calendar. It's the 13, 14, 15 of the Islamic calendar. So that's the white days. And even if you guys are into hijama, then hijama should actually be done after the half of the month has passed away. Because scientifically, the blood flow is more in the body of a person in the last days of the month than the early days of the month. And that was a practice of Rasulullah SAW. You probably didn't know that, right? So hijama actually should be done towards the last days of the month, after the 15 has passed away, after the moon, the full moon's now going back, changing its shape. That's the good days for hijama, not the early days of the month. And the one who is really a good person, who's a raqi, the one who does the ruqya and hijama, he can actually tell you this. And he will give you this, that these are the days when it should be done. So, and look, I could go on these practices, but very simply, the practice of Salatul Raghaib is a bid'ah, 12 units that people pray, and making the special du'as. And the first Friday or the first day of Rajab, this is again bid'ah, it's got nothing to do in the religion. Rasulullah never said that. Special type of Qiyamul Layl, it's again a bid'ah, and all these things are. And then you've got another one, Salat Dawood, halfway through Rajab. This is again a bid'ah. And gathering in the masjid on the 27th night of Rajab, believing that Muhammad SAW went to Mairaaj in that month again. Yes, look, don't get me wrong, yes, Muhammad SAW went, more reports are there that he went in the month of Rajab. But again, the 27th day is not very authentic. It could be any day. I mean, some people say it was the 21st or the 25th, could be any day. So again, going deeper into that, it becomes very problematic. Now, as I said, from the last time we spoke, very quickly, I told you that I am going to give you the days about the jinn. There was another time the jinns came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this was now after they've moved into. We spoke about one of the mountainous regions just after Ta'if, where he stayed in the night, is praying Qiyamul Layl. After that, some of the jinns became Muslim. And then we said Mut'im ibn Adi sent his 4 sons to take Muhammad SAW inside. Now I did say to you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in another place about the incident of jinn. And this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you guys know, I mentioned some of the bid'ahs of Surah Jinn. If you guys remember, I said in my community, they say don't read Surah Jinn because the jinns will come and they will possess you, and the things, you know, all this rubbish which is out there. So if Allah wanted that, He would have never put Surah Jinn in the Quran. It's part of the Quran. So very quickly, this was when Rasulullah SAW was reciting A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. He says, قُلْ أُوهِيَ إِلَيَّ أَنَّهُ اسْتَمَعَ نَفَرٌ مِّنَ الْجِنِّ فَقَالُوا إِنَّا سَمِعْنَا قُرْآنًا عَجَبًا. So what they're saying, Muhammad SAW, he was reciting it, it's been revealed that a group came and they all gathered. So before that, there is a backdrop of a story. Rasulullah SAW said to the Sahabas, who would like to see a special group of people? So Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said, he's one of the elite Sahabas, he said, I will accompany you, Muhammad SAW. And he took him, and when he took him all the way in the valley, and he would go in the desert, this was his practice. So he would go every now and then in the desert, and he would read Qiyamul Layl over there. So it shows us that as Muslims and as individuals, we should have our own time. We should have a time where we are only connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, we are social beings, social animals, in a way that we want people around us, we want that group, we want to hang around with people. But you know what, at times, that's why Qiyamul Layl is a best practice, where you get up in the night on your own, there's no one there, it's you and Allah, and you both connect to each other, and you ask Allah for whatever you want. So that's why that time, that that solitary time is required in our lives. Because if you are never alone, you will never comprehend on your mistakes. You will never be able to bring yourself to accountability. Once you come alone, then you start remembering all the regrets and all those things that has happened in your life. But if you're never alone, you're always around people, you would never come to that state where you can think, okay, you know what, this is not what I should have done, this is what I should have done. So Rasulullah would go in the desert and he would do that. So he took Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and he says he drew a line, and he said to Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, don't pass this line, just stay over here and do not come no matter what happens. And said when Muhammad SAW went in there, then clouds started descending down, and some special beings started coming, group of people started coming, and they started coming and they started listening, and to the extent that Rasulullah SAW was not to be seen anymore. He disappeared. So this is what Allah is mentioning in Surah Jinn. And then he says, قُلْ أُوهِيَ إِلَيَّ أَنَّهُ اسْتَمَعَ نَفَرٌ مِّنَ الْجِنِّ فَقَالُوا إِنَّا سَمِعْنَا قُرْآنًا عَجَبًا. That when say, O Muhammad, the word qul, whenever it's used, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to say to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to say, and then Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying that. Then when it was revealed that a group of jinn came and they started listening to this Qur'an. And ajaba, the word ajib, it's like something was amazing, something was out of here. And when they were listening to this book, they started saying, this thing is ajib. This thing is like amazing. This is something very different. We've actually never heard that. يَهْدِي إِلَى الرُّشْدِ فَآمَنَّا بِهِ. That they are saying it guides us to the right path. Now the jinns are having this conversation. وَلَن نُشْرِكَ بِرَبِّنَا أَحَدًا. That after that, we will now never associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they started having this communication. وَأَنَّهُ تَعَالَى جَدُّ رَبِّنَا مَتَّخَذَ سَاهِبَةٌ وَلَا وَلَدًا. That they're saying that, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our noble Lord, and He teaches مَتَّخَذَ سَاهِبَةً وَلَا وَلَدًا, and He teaches us something, and He's not taken any family. So for example, He's got no wife, He's got no children. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free from all this. He hasn't got any mother, He hasn't got any father or any family. So whenever we think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reminds me of my son. He was asking me a question in the car. He's like, billions and billions years ago, who chose Allah? Like, we believe in Allah, we all believe in Allah, but who chose Allah? And it was a very difficult question for me. But I did tell him, okay, what if, for example, let's say me, you, mummy, and everyone came together, we wanted to be God. I mean, knowing that God will have all the power. So who are you going to think we're going to choose? And in a way he did say, I'll choose myself. And I said, I'll choose myself. If we all had to choose the God, I'm not going to be giving my powers to anyone over here. I'll stand up for those powers myself. So when there is a choice, that's where problems would have risen. But when it came to God, there was no God except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There was no choices. He was always there. That's why one of His name is Awwal wal Akhir. So He was always there, He will be there. And then it says, وأنه كان يقول سفيهنا على الله شططا, and that our foolish ones have been saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they've done transgression. Shatata, the word means that they've transgressed in when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now you need to understand what the jinns are saying with the foolish ones. What they're trying to imply, that we believed in Iblis, and Iblis has been telling us that God, and Iblis was kind of their leader. He was the one who was the most knowledgeable one. So they said Iblis has in a way deceived us, and he's been fooling us, and he's the one who's a fool that said to us that we believe in this God and so many other gods and the idol worshippers. If you remember last week, we spoke about that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the things is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I don't know what I was trying to say. Sorry, where was I when I was speaking? I just completely lost. What was I just talking about? Oh yeah, the transgression. So basically what they're saying, if you remember last week we spoke about jinns have religions as well. Thanks for that. It just came back. So we did speak about jinns have religions. They all have religions. There are Muslim jinns, there are Jew jinns, and there are Hindu jinns, and why they follow the religions of the humans. So if you guys have seen a Raqi who's trying to cure someone who's been possessed, then he speaks to a jinn, and the jinn starts telling who does he believe in. And so the jinns also communicate through that way. They communicate from the human words, because we are not, this is another supernatural beings of Allah. We're not in a position to ever see a jinn. We can't see an angel. There's no way humans can see angels. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam being an exception, then the prophets being an exception. And also we can't see the jinns. So yes, we do see jinns who possesses different people. That's the way we see them and we hear them, but we actually never get to see the jinns in their essence, in their innate form. We can actually never see them like that, in their natural form. So basically what happens is, they're saying he was the foolish one. We are the ones who believed in him, and he fooled us. And because of his fooling us, we have been fooled, and that's why we left the fitrah. And the fitrah was that we believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always. So now, and also now they said, وَأَنَّهُ لَمَّا قَامَ عَبْدُ اللَّهِ يَدْعُوهُ كَادُوا يَكُونُونَ عَلَيْهِ لِبَدًا. So when they heard about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Abdullah over here is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whenever he mentions the word Abd in the Quran, particularly with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam being in the picture, that is always referred to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a way that he is the one who has reached the status of Abdullah. He's a slave, he's reached to ubudiyah, that he worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So also giving your children the name Abdullah is an amazing name. I can see Abdullah over there, that's one of my students. And it's an amazing name in itself. This is a name that is loved by Allah, and very synonymous name is another name which is Abdurrahman. They actually mean they've got the same meaning. But Abdullah carries the name of Allah in it, and Rahman being the name of Allah again, but we call Allah always by the name Allah, so that's carried in the name of Abdullah. So then after that, when everything they had left, so Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came back, and it's nearly the time of Fajr, and he says, where is the other group of jinns that were over here? And he says, the other group of jinns, that's the cloud over there. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said that cloud has always been there. But the other thing, sorry, I just forgot to mention, but when he was reading Quran, just imagine that all the jinns are surrounding. It is said that they were on top of each other, just trying to look at Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, trying to listen to his reading. You can imagine how blessed that was. Today, and the younger ones over here, they can relate to that. When there is anything of this nature, when you go for, let's say, a nasheed concert, and there was this big artist that you were going to see, you all start gathering, you want to be close to the stage, you all start climbing each other, you want to go see that celebrity. And so for the jinns, Muhammad SAW was a celebrity. Imagine we get mesmerized when Mishari, Afasi and these, the kinds of, they start reciting Quran. Imagine the recitation of Rasulullah. That would be on another level. It is said the best of the reciters were Abdullah ibn Mas'ud and Ubay ibn Ka'b. They were the best of the reciters. Even Rasulullah would ask them to recite Quran. Imagine what level Muhammad SAW would be. Even Jibreel would come to listen to his recitation. Why? Because he would make sure that he was not doing any mistakes. And that was to, to go to the Quran. But again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about Rasulullah, he would have never made the mistakes. Well, when لا تحرك به لسانك لتعجل به إن علينا جمعه وقرآنه فإذا قرأنا فاتبع قرآنه إن علينا bayana. So basically Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that do not move your tongue fast. We will collect the Quran for you. And we're going to make it on your tongue like a bayan, like a speech, that you flawlessly you will talk that. And people will, and there will be no mistake, it will be flawless on your tongue. So now, it is said, now one more thing I want to mention. After he came, the cloud was shown to him, and then he said that he gathered, at that time, the clouds came down, and he gathered for them some dung, which is the camel dung. I mean, well, simple words, the kids I understand, I mean poo by that, and also bones. So leftover bones. So now the Sahabas asked him later on, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud particularly, why did you do that? He said, now question for you guys very quickly. What's the food of shayateen? What's the food of jinns? Bones, yeah, but what's the shayateen particularly? Not the Muslim jinns, the shayateen. What does the hadith say? When you don't do something and they share your food. Yes? Ah, Shihab, you were very close. Yes. MashaAllah, there you go. See, that's a Muhammad, can't say the word incarnation, but yeah, but that was, MashaAllah. When you don't say Bismillah, the shayateen start sharing your food. And how many of us, the kids sit over here, you've got so many opportunities to eat food. Isn't that right, Suleiman? You've got recess in the school, you've got lunch, you've got crunch and sip. We have to say Bismillah for each one of them. Even when you pick a packet of chips and open it, it's crunch and sip, but still, guess what? You still have to say Bismillah. Or the chair. That's why, a lot of people are going through obesity. Why? Because we don't say Bismillah, where our stomachs are not getting full. We just keep on eating. And because we are not contented with what we are eating, we just keep on eating. And that's why we've got a big problem of today, and especially the Muslims with the biggest bellies around. It's because we do not say Bismillah, we never feel full. Or you don't have to worry, Suleiman, no, I can't see any belly there. But I think you say Bismillah all the time. And that's why, we used to have this in kindergarten. The teacher, the Islamic teacher, has the placemats. And she puts a Bismillah on it. And all the kids make it. And they read Bismillah before they eat, and before we go to sleep, when we wake up, it's on that placemat. And so they learn it. This is the way we learn it. So Rasulullah said, for the shayateen, the food is when you don't say for Bismillah. Now these jinns have become Muslim. What's the food for them? Our leftover bones, that when we finish eating, will be food for you. And the dung will be food for your rides. So as humans have rides, jinns also have rights. We find from this hadith. So jinns actually don't eat. This is for our excretion. I was looking for a better word. This is a good one. So our excretion, the animal excretion, is actually the food for the rides of their animals, not for the jinns. The jinns actually feed on the bones. And who? The Muslim jinns. Because for the other world, that's kind of a food. And the excretion of animals is exactly food for their animals. So their jinns, and you can imagine, we've got, some of you probably might be imagining now, our rides have changed from horses and camels. We're riding the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris and the Bugattis. So I think, you know, the jinns probably have the similar sort of rides. They're also riding all these rides as well. For them, it's not the petrol, it's again the excretion of animal to put in these rides to go around. I think that was on the lighter note. But anyways, now, very quickly, I want to go into Isra wal Mairaaj. We don't have much time, but I will cover as much as I can. I'll actually cover the backdrop today. We're not going to go in the story. As I said, I'm going to take a lot of time. I'm going to give you a lot of extension on this Isra wal Mairaaj. So, Mairaaj is mentioned in Surah An-Najm, and Isra is mentioned in Surah Isra. And the ones who are from subcontinent, for you, it's mentioned in Surah Bani Israel. Alright? So the subcontinent Quran is slightly different names from the surah. One of the most common ones is Bani Israel. So just to not confuse yourself, the surah before Surah Kahf is in an Usmani script of Quran is Surah Isra. And in, you know, the other script, which is the Persian script, which the Pakistanis normally have, is Bani Israel in that. So that's why is it called Bani Israel? Because Allah actually speaks about Moses in that surah in great detail. And also, that's why it was called the Bani Israel. So that's the two places where Allah actually mentions. So now, this is one of the places that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions it. And also, the other thing about Isra wal Mairaaj, see, this is a journey which is tawatur. And tawatur, if you guys don't know what tawatur is, tawatur and ahad, these are two kinds of hadith, and also when it comes to Quran as well. Tawatur is when a lot of people are narrating the same thing. For example, if you all went out and you said you saw me, everyone's going to believe. No one can make up a lie. That's the tawatur. But there was only one or two people over here, and one said, I saw him, he was sitting this way, the other one said, no, he was sitting on that way. This is ahad report. Whenever it comes to the matters of sharia, the scholars differed, should they take ahad or not, or should they take tawatur or not. So this is a tawatur report where more than 20 sahabas narrated it. And I also told you, this is a very problematic, when it comes to, there are two problems with this journey. The first problem being, this journey is extensively reported by many scholars. Many people have reported this, many people. And you should remember, there were in the times, if you know the history, the Islamic literature, prior to the scholars, Imam al-Zahabi and these greater Imams in the 2nd century, there was a lot of qussas. And qussas were the people who were the storytellers. Remember, they used to, back in the days, telling Islamic stories would get you money. And so this was their bread and butter. So they would go around, make up stories. So you will see great details of Isra wal Mairaaj, great stories that people have told. And these are, if you start looking at them and from an academic perspective, these are mostly stories which are done by these qussas. And in the time of the Abbasids, when Islam started, a lot of literature started writing after the first 100 years of Umayyad, then these qussas were banned. And it's exactly like today's gatherings as well, where you call some of the sheikhs, they read Quran in a great voice, and then you give them money, and then someone comes to your house, they read something on your water, and he sprays the water all around your house, you give him some money, and someone comes to bless your, when your child is born, you give him money, and all those other things. They're exactly very similar thing. And so Qussas used to get money back then, and that was their bread and butter. So there were many people who made up all these ignorant stories. They came up with so many, and remember, when you are a storyteller, you want to come with a lot of excitement. And if there is no excitement in the story, people are not going to be enjoying it. So Isra wal Mairaaj, they came up with a lot of exciting stories. That's the first problem. Now, the bigger problem, even bigger than this, which a lot of people, a lot of scholars have mentioned, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah says, many Sahabas reported Isra wal Mairaaj, but there was no chronological order to the narration, because they were so scattered. If you were try to put and reconcile all these narrations, you could never come in a chronological order. That was one of the biggest problems. Why? Because now people want to listen to the story. But then some Sahabas said he saw the fornicators being punished like that. He saw Malik did not smile. He saw the lady, the hairdresser, Ma Shi'ta Fir'aun, who was the hairdresser of the Fir'aun's daughter, the fragrance was coming out. He saw Musa was praying in his grave. He saw all the Sahabas, all the Anbiya he led. So all these stories were coming in a scattered version. He sat on this. So how do we reconcile this? We look at every narration and we try to put it in a story. And what I have done, I have followed the pattern of Ibn Ishaq. Ibn Ishaq being the champion, how he narrated the story, I've just copied it the way it is. I haven't used any of my intellect. Where I thought it could be slightly different from what Ibn Ishaq has mentioned, I have changed it around. So that was another bigger one. And also I already touched this point about the date. We said the date and the days are not really important in Islam. If that was one of the biggest things in Islam, we would have every date and the date of today. We would have everything today. But that was not something very important. It's something that we've learned from the pagans, and we like to venerate things, and that's how we are. And if we are mentioning, and I did mention that if you want to celebrate your birthday, you live in the West, and it's very, very hard to tell your kids and explain your kids. If it's just a little party that you're having, you cook some meal, and you want to, if it's a child as little as well, that's another condition. Not celebrating birthday for your 50-year-old mother. I mean, that's a no-no. That birthday should not be celebrating. Maybe you should have more sessions and speak to your mother that life is really short and we should be worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order to get to Allah. So if it's a 7-8-year-old kid or even a 10-year-old child who wants to celebrate a birthday, I mean, don't be extravagant. Just cook something in the house and just get the whole family together, and rather than cutting a cake, cut man'ush or whatever is on the plate and tell them this is what it is. Some people actually get donuts nowadays, which is even better. Everyone loves donuts. I know Abu Yusuf loves donuts. You always see donuts around. Even on Thursday, he put some donuts out there, and he said, help yourself. So when's your birthday? We'll celebrate your birthday in the Musalla.
You did say that don't celebrate the lady's 50th, but my 50th is coming up, so you didn't say man, so you're all invited, inshallah.
All right. So basically, the days and these things were not. And I said there are many other narrations. Now, when did Isra wal Mairaaj happen? Some people say it was in the 5th year. Some people say it was in the 6th year. Some people say it was in the 10th year. Some people say it was in the 11th year. The most common and the most exact opinion is it was after the death of Khadija. How do we know that? Aisha radiallahu anha said, when Khadija died, after that Salah became fard on us. Salah only became fard, if you know the story, after Mairaaj, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was given 50 salawat, and then he kept on going back and forth until it became 5, and that was the only time it became fard. So what did she say? After the death of Khadija. When did Khadija die? In the 10th year of Hijrah. So the more closer opinion is the 11th year when he went to Isra wal Mairaaj. And also understand, brothers and sisters, this was one of the greatest miracles. And it was only a miracle for Rasulullah, not for me and you. Both Isra and Mairaaj was for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now I want to give you a message from this. We all go through our downs, we all go through difficult times, we all go through pains. Allah is teaching us a lesson. When you have patience, when you have strong faith in me, when you have strong iman in me, I will give you your Isra, I will give you your Mairaaj. After every down, there will be a time when Allah will raise you up. Every time you think you're falling in this world, Allah is raising you up. And if you're patient, and if you're steadfast, your Isra, your Mairaaj will come. My Isra, your Isra may not be traveling from here to Bayt al-Maqdis in the middle of the night. My Mairaaj, your Mairaaj will probably not be rising up and going to the heavens, but it will be something that we were already asking for Allah to bring that peace in our lives. So it'll be something like that, and Allah will bring that to us. So that's something that will be my Isra, that will be something my Mairaaj. So Allah, when Rasulullah was at the lowest of his life, uncle had died, wife had died, Ta'if was pelted with stones. And if you know, we spoke about this a few weeks ago, probably a couple of weeks ago, and we said the blood was coming down from his body. They were targeting his feet so he could not walk. And it was dripping down, and back then they would wear the hoofs. So the leather socks that we all wear in the winter, so that was their shoes. So even if you were to wear shoes, I mean, I can give you an example. This comes to my mind again. I was wearing shoes, and one of the teachers said, "Why are you wearing two shoes?" So because I actually took them off. Oh, sorry, that's actually my brother-in-law's ringtone. That's very different from the other ringtones. So when that rings, I know it's my brother-in-law. So that's a special one. Oh no, I can't say that on the camera. I hope you didn't say that loud. So basically what happens is whenever Allah, he's going through a very difficult time. So those shoes, this teacher said, "You're wearing two shoes today." I said, "No, the other ones are socks. They're the leather socks." She said, "If you wore that, they look like socks as well." Actually, shoes as well, because they look like shoes. If you were to only wear that, it could be fashion in making. If you guys started only wearing those, everyone's going to start looking at you and start wearing those shoes. They're really light. You could run with that, but not on the concrete for a very long time. Your heels are going to start hurting. But it's a good idea. Maybe I should start that trend. So that socks he was wearing, and the blood was dripping down, and when it got dried up in the socks, they stuck to his feet, and he had to literally tear them off. And subhanallah, Muhammad SAW, being pelted by these low life, these slaves, these children, these women, they were pelting him, and the leaders standing at the back, and it was really low. And at that time only one person became Muslim, and we spoke about this man. Who can tell me the name of this man? And he was, yes, MashaAllah, you've been listening very carefully. Addas was the guy who was the slave of, we spoke about these guys, Utbah ibn Rabi'a, and that was their farm. He came with the fruits and he became Muslim. After that, Allah sent the Jama'ah of Jinns and they became Muslim. And Allah, after that, allowed him to enter, and then Allah gave him a big miracle. Now, just the linguistic concept of these two words, Isra, in the Arabs know this really well. Isra is a night journey. When you actually take a journey in the night time. So when you go in the night from one place to another. So these are two journeys. One's in the night time from one place to another, and the other journey is Mairaaj. Comes from the word I'raja. I'raja actually means to ascend, to go up. It's like an instrument. In Arabic, if you were to look at this word linguistically, it's an instrument that carries you up. So we had that instrument, that was Buraq, which Allah actually sent forth, and that instrument was used to carry him up. And we will speak about this Buraq as well, which is actually what the hadith says, دون البغل وفوق الحمار. There's actually smaller than a mule and bigger than a donkey. So it was not a very huge animal like a horse, but it was a dabba. The hadith says it was a beast. Dabba, I mean dabba, where the Arabs call anything that moves on a four-legged animal is a dabba for the Arabs. So it's a four-legged animal, and it was smaller than a mule and bigger than a donkey. So, and it was the thing which was used to carry him. So I'raja actually means to go from one from one place, going up, ascending up. So there are two different journeys. Now Muhammad SAW, you need to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually venerating his slave, and whenever you look at the word abd, which was, I was mentioning that earlier, and I'm going to elaborate on that now. Whenever the word abd comes, it's exactly like a title. It's like someone who's perfected his slavery to Allah. Allah actually never calls Rasulullah, apart from 2 places with the name Ahmed and Muhammad in the Quran. Every other prophet, Allah called them with his name in the Quran. When it comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says Abdullah or Abd, and he uses the word Abd. And in Arabic context, it does not just mean slave. It means a slave which is perfected slavery to the master, to the creator. It's like, you know, when you want to give respect to someone, you don't use his name. And that's what Allah is doing to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He uses Rasulullah, that's mainly used. Rasulullah or Abd. Or for example, Subhanalladhi, that he's saying that he has taken, thanks to Allah, glory be to Allah, that he's taken his slave from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa. So that is how Allah starts that. Or we read Surah Kahf when we say, Alhamdulillahi alladhi ala abdihi al-kitab. That with thanks be to Allah that He revealed a book on His abd, on His slave. And that book was revealed to him and his slave, or actually, took the message forward to us. So that's like, if you give me respect and you call me Sheikh or Imam, that's that respect that I'm getting. Or if you just call someone by name, although it may be more personalized, but you're not showing him that's just on a level that you both are on a friendship level and you speak to each other. For example, if you would say Mr. President, or you would say Mr., and that's, you're trying to give him some. So that when Allah uses the word Rasulullah in the Quran or Abd in the Quran, Allah is exactly sanctifying Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I'll actually stop there, and I'll go both in Isra and Mairaaj. We're coming very close to Salah, and I think it's in a few minutes. So I'm going to open the floor for Q&A, and then in the next session, we are going to look at the whole Isra and Mairaaj as much as we can. And it's a great journey, look, going, coming, and then also coming back, and then the Iman of the Anbiya. And so inshallah we're going to leave it there, and I'm going to cover it step by step. There is a great story which I'm going to mention. Actually, I'm not going to mention in detail. Is there a few minutes left for Salah? Should I open for Q&A, or should I just mention the story of Moses?
10 minutes, the actual the comment is 10 minutes after. 10 minutes
it's 7:51, yeah? 43 is the Iqamah. Alright, so very quickly, okay, I'm just going to go fast forward this story, but you can actually look at it. This is another story which is Ma Shi'ta Fir'aun Binti Fir'aun. So basically this is the hairdresser of the daughter of Fir'aun. So basically she was one day combing the hair of Fir'aun. So imagine the luxury the Fir'aun had, the pharaohs, and people who come from the pharaoh's land, they've seen the luxury over there, the gigantic buildings and all these other things that are in Egypt, the structure that Pharaoh had. And so he was, that was a region, Mesopotamia. The power that he had was unparalleled. He was a god for his people. And so his hairdresser was combing the hair of the daughter, and the comb fell on the floor, and she said Bismillah, and the daughter said Bismillah Abi, that in the name of my father, and she said La, Bismillah Rabb Abuka wa ana. So she said that your father's Lord and my Lord. I say Bismillah. And then she went to the father and she said she does not believe in you, she believes in someone else. And then the father called her, he was very angry. This is Fir'aun. Remember, Ramsey, according to the historians, they say this is Ramsey II. And we know him as Fir'aun, which is in the Quran. So then this is the most tyrant person. He killed his wife tied her up, and this is Asiya, which is mentioned in Surah Tahrim, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised her to a great status. And also she's mentioned and in the hadith as well, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the four are the great women, and she was one of them: Khadija, Fatima, and Asiya and Maryam. So Asiya is also mentioned in that hadith as well. So now he invites her, and the hadith says that there is big container with boiling oil in this container, and now he says, denounce your Lord and believe in me, or else I'm going to put you one by one in this container. And so she is a very firm lady, and she does not denounce Lord, and she says, I believe in my Lord, and you can do whatever you like. And so she has 5 sons. They put the first one, within minutes the bones start floating on the top, and the flesh is all gone. It's dissolved in that oil. And then this pot's been burning for a while, and then the second one similarly, the third one, fourth one, and when comes the 5th one, which is in her, she's holding it, it's a little baby. Now the hadith says 4 spoke from the cradle. One was Jurayj, the guy who defended. Jurayj was an abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was defended by a baby. The other one was, we already spoke about him, Ashabul Ukhdud in Surah Al-Buruj, the kid who spoke when the mother was not going inside. The third one is Jesus spoke from the cradle. Isa spoke from the cradle. And the 4th one is this baby. And there's a Sahih hadith as well. Imam al-Bani is the only Imam who makes this hadith da'if, in silsila da'ifa. He says this hadith does not reach to the level of the sanad of the hadith is not strong, and he makes it da'if. But there are many scholars, Imam al-Dhahabi as well says this is a Sahih hadith. So now what happens is, very quickly, when she now, when you've got a little baby, ask the mothers how they feel. She just does not want to throw the baby in. And her mind wanders. And at that point the baby spoke. And then he says, Isbiri ya ummi, have patience, O my mother. You are on the right. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will unite us. And now, at this point, the mother starts crying, and she says, I've got a request for you to make. And the Fir'aun says, what is your request? He says, when we all die, collect our bones and bury us all together. And he says, that's easy, I'll do that for you. And so inshallah you guys can go and research on this hadith in detail when you go home. But I said I'm going to keep it short. So they both are put into that container, and they die. After that they gather them. So on the journey, Rasulullah makes 5 stops on the journey of Isra. So the third stop that he makes in Mount Sinai, at that stop where he makes, his fragrance is coming out of the grave. And then Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says to Jibreel, whose grave is this? It has a very great fragrance that comes out of this grave. And then he narrates in the story of these 5 kids, and the mother was a hairdresser of Fir'aun's daughter, how she died. So brothers and sisters, we are in this world, we are going to be tested. Now I'm going to go on a very big tangent from here. As you know, Indian brothers are suffering at this time as we speak, and the way they're being brutalized. It's not that Islam never sees the end. If you call yourselves Muslims, first it was the Burmese government, and the Chinese had their share as well, and now it's the Indians. Particularly, when I shouldn't use the word India, I should just say the nationalist RSS Hindus, who are actually slaughtering Muslims. And we should be very grateful how we live today. Me and you, we don't have to work hard for La ilaha illallah. No one's coming and burning our houses down. Those people who live in India and who say La ilaha illallah, every word they say, they have to worry about that. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help these Indian brothers, particularly in this difficult time. And it's our dua is not just extended for these the Muslims, and also the ones who are standing with them. Allah gives them strong iman, support as well from these these Hindus. And remember, this is not the way of Islam, and I say this on the pulpit now. It's not the way of Islam to degrade any other religion. There are good and bad in all the religions. We are not shy of calling out the bad ones. This Prime Minister is evil. He was behind the killing of 2,000 Muslims in Gujarat in 2002 when he was the Chief Minister, and he's behind the killing of these Muslims now as well. So we should not be shy of calling out. So he follows a group and where they're killing the Muslims. Inshallah, I'll close on that. Next week, Sunday, we're going to touch on Isra and Mairaaj again. And if we do get time, if we finish it off, great. If we don't, we're going to go into another week, inshallah. So very quickly before Azan is made, probably another minute or two, I can take one question only, and after that we'll make the Azan, inshallah. Yes?
After the death of the wife of Pharaoh, marry again, or did he just go?
Well, look, that's a very good question. But for the kings, a marriage was a secondary thing. Probably had a million other wives as well. I mean, Pharaoh was the most powerful person on the earth at that time. And if you read Surah Nazi'at, he actually challenged Allah as well. When Haman actually built him a tower, he said, Ana Rabbukumul A'la. Because Musa alayhi salam actually said that my Lord is the highest. And he actually built a tower and he stood on that. And he said for him, marriage was a very secondary thing. I mean, why he killed his wife? Because his wife did not believe in him as God. She believed in a real God, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why the killing of the wife was very brutal as well. Chains were tied to the hands and the legs, and then they started winding up the chains, and they started pulling the legs and the hands apart. That's how he killed his wife. It's one of the narrations. So he was a tyrant. He had and that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not allow him tawbah in his final moment as well. When he saw death, he actually wanted to become Muslim. And there is a very strong hadith, this is a Sahih hadith, and Muhammad al-Jibali actually brings this hadith in his book, and he mentions when Jibreel put sand in his mouth, because Jibreel knew the mercy of Allah. He knew that if he does not put sand in his mouth, maybe Allah might forgive him. So when he was about to say La ilaha illallah, because he wanted to believe, and Jibreel put sand in his mouth and he stuffed his mouth so he could not say anything. This is Sahih hadith. I can't give you explanation right now. We'll come into Maghrib, but next week when you come remind me, I'll give you the explanation of this hadith as well, inshallah. Any other questions before we go into Azan?
It's just a small question. I think I know the answer, but just to make sure. Were there ever any jinn prophets?
See, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He says in the Quran, Inni ja'ilu khalifa. Who does Allah say that for? Adam alayhi salam. So he was sending the humans for that job. He chose us to be the leaders. And so jinns actually follow the religion of, and in the last session I spoke about this, jinns follow our religion. There are jinns who are Muslim, there are jinns who are Jews, Hindus, you name it. They all follow. In Surah Jinn, I think you got the session, right? They said we were fools. Safihuna, the word, we were fools. Why? Because we were believing in shaitan. He fooled us. And so in fitra, the innate fitra or the instinct of anyone is Islam. And so inshallah in Isra wal Mairaaj, when I speak about milk and alcohol, when he was offered both khamr and laban, and again I don't want to go on a tangent, in actual sense in Ammiya you guys call halib. Halib was never milk. In Lugha al-Arabiya, which is Fusha, laban was milk. So I don't want to go on that tangent now, but inshallah when I come to that, you guys call it halib, right? When it's milk. You call it laban?
Egyptians call it laban.
Oh, mashallah, Allah guided the Egyptians. Oh, no, but that's just a joke, don't worry. All right, we're going to go into Azan. So yeah, you got the answer, right? All right, Jazakallah khair.